Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know the significance of the solemnity of the Assumption of Mary into heaven that we celebrate on August the 15th every year? As we said, August 15th celebrates the Assumption of Mary. Our belief is that Mary was assumed, body and soul, into heaven and is now with her Lord in heaven. Pope Pius XII in 1950 declared the Assumption of Mary to be an infallible doctrine in our church. There's really no biblical basis for this doctrine, but it is implied in some of the relationship that Mary has with Jesus and so on. The evidence for the feast actually goes back to the 4th century of the early church, in which they spoke about the Natale of Mary into heaven. The Natale would be translated as the birthday, her birthday into heaven. Which is the way most of the saints were celebrated in terms of the day when they died. So we know that from the 4th century there is this association of Mary's Natale, or birthday, into heaven. The Eastern tradition actually believed that Mary fell asleep. The dormition of Mary is what they call it, the falling asleep of Mary, in which she dies, and her soul is taken up into heaven, and 3 days later she is assumed bodily into heaven to be with her Lord. In the Western tradition, the tradition developed that Mary died not so much because of original sin, but she died because she chose to be in conformity with her Son and accepted even death the way her Son accepted death. In 1854, you have to remember that Mary was declared to be immaculately conceived. The Immaculate Conception was declared an infallible doctrine by Pope Pius IX in 1854. This meant that Mary was conceived without any trace of original sin. And since death was seen as a punishment for sin, therefore, since Mary was free of original sin, death was not something that she needed to experience. However, the Church believes that she did experience death as a result of conforming herself to her Son, who actually accepted death even though he was free from sin as well. And so Mary, we believe with the Assumption, Mary is now fully present with her Lord, body and soul. It's important to now focus on what does the feast mean for us? What is the message for us? Well, Mary is one of us. Mary is human, fully a disciple like one of us. And she, in this feast, she models for us what the hope and the desire of all disciples are, to be united body and soul fully with our Lord and with all those who have gone before us. And so what this Assumption of Mary and the feast that we celebrate on August 15th does is give us hope and assurance that we too, as disciples, as we walk the journey that she walked, that we too will one day join our Lord body and soul. Mary is the anticipation of the resurrection of the body, which is promised and which we proclaim in the Creed, and which is promised to all disciples. So as we look at Mary, we realize that she is one of us, a disciple who modeled for us what being a disciple is all about, and who actually merited and anticipated for us the resurrection of the body with the Lord. Various legends developed around the death of Mary, some of which are really truly far-fetched and exist in the apocryphal Gospels and so on. Well, we do know that Mary died and either in Jerusalem or in Ephesus, Ephesus being associated with John, the disciple John, and so on. We're not quite sure. Both places claim her burial site, Jerusalem as well as Ephesus. But what we do know, again, is that the key message is that the Feast of the Assumption is one of hope and consolation and desire for us that we too one day will join Jesus, Mary, and all the saints who are with the Lord, both body and soul, and will continue to be with the Lord until the end of time. So I hope this has helped just a bit to explain the significance of August the 15th as the Assumption of Mary, bodily and soul, into heaven. And I hope that you will return again once more to more Do You Know questions to learn more about our faith and our traditions so that we can be truly effective disciples of the Lord. Thank you very much.